sensible infrastructure. So by having focused deliberations in sub-communities, we can bring the expertise from the deliberative community, and there's a huge amount of expertise. There's now citizens' assemblies that are permanent in Paris and Belgium. There's citizens' assemblies popping up all over the world. So we're taking that notion of how to create curated, high-quality conversations, give people that capacity to participate and focus it. And the other one that I'm looking at, incidentally, with a board member, Eva Pascoe, many of you may know her, we're looking at a response across the UK to the government's modern industrial strategy. So what we want to do is go out into the UK and just run citizens' assemblies to say, hey, how is this community going to implement the government's plan? So there's two huge projects that I'm working on there. And without the RSA, none of that would have happened. So, how could the RSA amplify this work for me? Well, there's 31,000 fellows, and you're all sitting at intersections in different parts of society. You can open doors. We can look at areas that could benefit from deliberation within sub-communities. That could be a really powerful tool for every fellow to tap into, and I'm a conduit for that. But I'm only one guy, so I need help and support, and there's other people in the network as well who are here and contributing. So really excited to hear all of this. So thank you for this opportunity, and I'm really excited to hear what everyone else has to say. There we go.
Fantastic. Thanks, Chris. And one of the conversations we're having actively with you right now and some of your collaborators is how we actually model some of that work of deliberation as an institution, right? So how do we actually invite some of our fellows into deliberations to help determine some of the societal challenges that we want to focus on, some of the interventions, that type of thing. So I think this is something that we want to both share externally with the world, but also model internally as a matter of institutional integrity. Next, I want to hand it over to Christabel to share a little bit about your work. You are someone who, after the events we've done with you, the blurbs that we've posted from those events, I just get chills in terms of the level of wisdom and insight that you're sharing. I personally feel like narrative change is just something that is so under-resourced, and so really drawn to your work. If you don't mind sharing a little bit about what you do and how we might be able to support that more effectively.
Wonderful. First of all, hi, everybody. And second of all, I am so excited about what I'm hearing. So give me a minute to, again, as I said before, I jumped on center myself. So hi, everybody. My name is Christabel. I am, in terms of my background, I am an award-winning broadcast journalist and showrunner. What I do today is really explore content for connection. That's the driving force that has driven all of the work that I've done as a reporter, as a showrunner, as a writer. And that really comes from this idea of me being a very powerful and deep listener and recognizing that there were disconnects between what I was hearing in my community and what was being amplified in the wider community that I came from. I'm the child of Ghanaian immigrants. I was born in Scotland. The accent is English. We keep it moving. But in everywhere that I've gone, thank you, in every place that I've been, it's about this disconnect of whose voices are amplified and whose voices are silenced, whether that's by design or whether that's just through ignorance and not in a cynical way. And so when in all of the ways that I've kind of moved through the media landscape, that's really been the question for me. It's about how do we amplify voices? Because for me, when we talk about content and we talk about the conversations that we should be having publicly, it really drives and it really creates more understanding. And it sounds like a very soft thing, but for me, understanding is not a soft thing. It's the heart of our ability to move forward as a society in order to stop wars, in order to really plant our flags and have very, very honest conversations that makes everybody feel safe. And so I have worked for corporate. I have developed content for NPR. I have run shows for NPR, and that's not corporate. But on the other end of things, I was an executive for Spotify, and I was helping creators develop their content so they could grow on those platforms. So I not only even though I have a heartbeat of a creator, I really have that strategic kind of what does this look like? And in this creator economy where journalists are being let go, where we're really understanding or trying to figure out where our sources of information and what is true and what is not, what I've come to recognize is that people are trying to create their own kind of sources of content, whether that's because they want to build their own careers and build their own platforms, or if it's just a source of connection. And so I was speaking with the lovely folks, Claire and Tony in particular, and we started to have these real conversations about what does it mean to amplify these voices. Thank you very much. To amplify voices that have not been heard. And what does it mean to really talk about this connectivity part, right? So when I think about content for connection, the verb is not just listening, it's about how using content to inspire action. And so we had not a town hall, we had an event, didn't we, at the end of last year, where I interviewed Esther Armah, who's she's a playwright, and she uses creativity to really inspire people to think about their responsibility within society in different ways. And her concept is around emotional justice. And that was a really, really powerful conversation. And I love doing that. I have hosted shows, I have my own podcast. And so when we continued talking, I approached Claire and Tony and I said, I want to do more of this because I think these conversations are powerful, not just in terms of people turning up and saying, I want to listen to what you have to say, but as an opportunity to challenge people to think about how they can do more to change their part of the world. By using storytelling as a way to help them examine the world around them, to connect with other people, and to understand how they can move forward. So as a result, we're going to be doing a series of more of these conversations, and we are talking about the possibility of me becoming a storyteller in residence. Again, my storytelling is mission driven. It is not about having nice stories, although I love a good story. I think that's important too. But how can we use storytelling as a jump off in order for us to build communities, in order for us to amplify voices that we've not heard, that can really change the way that we see the world, and propel us to do something new and something different. So I think I've answered all those questions.
Amazing, Christabel. Thank you. 2 thumbs up from Charlie. And I just spoke to a fellow yesterday who's running a group set up by Deval Patrick around Share America. And they're looking at how to do communication campaigns that really disrupt the echo chambers, the media echo chambers that folks find themselves in. And I think you'd be a wonderful advisor for that project. So I'll connect the dots there. But want to hand over to Leslie Ann. Leslie, we're also exploring a partnership in terms of your fantastic work, Lunch for Democracy. Do you want to share a bit more about that, how you got into that work, and the ways in which you would like to see the RSA to show up for this work?
Yeah, thank you so much, Alexa. And like the previous speakers, just really excited about this strategic direction that the RSA is taking. And building a little bit on what Chris and Christabel have just been saying, Lunch for Democracy has elements of both participatory decision making, but also amplifying voices. And so just for a few minutes, I'll talk about that link between democracy and lunch and the RSA US. So I'll start with the easy one, democracy. I think most of us here know that less than 8% of the world's population lives in a full democracy, and that's a percentage that's been going down for the last 19 years consecutively. And there's real growing distrust of leaders, of experts and institutions around the world. And within that context, what we're hearing a lot in media is that young people are disillusioned and disengaged. But what I'm hearing from hundreds of young people that I work with is they're definitely not apathetic, but they are frustrated that their voices aren't being heard. And they're looking for spaces where they can ask questions without being shut down, and where their voices can be taken seriously and that they matter. And so that brings me to Lunch for Democracy, which is Wonder Future, my organization's flagship initiative. And at its core, it's very simple. We bring together 20 young people in a school or university or youth organization setting. We meet over lunch, and we have facilitated conversations about issues like trust, power, social media, the impact of AI on democracy, and the future that young people want to create. And these lunches are not debates, they're dialogue. It's about building a conversation. And it's, to use the rest is politics phrase, it's about learning to disagree agreeably. So we started Lunch for Democracy in schools in the UK in the summer of 24. We're now in quite a lot of schools in the UK. We're in 5 cities in the US, and we're also doing Lunch for Democracy in Kenya, Malawi, Nepal, and Uganda. And this month we're launching in Australia, Colombia, and Nigeria. And we have a lot more countries coming on board in the coming months. And essentially, to your point, Alexa, RSA US is one of the amazing partners on this journey with us. And there are 3 ways in which the RSA is going to be able to really help us as a small organization of essentially 2 people, Claire in London, who Chris has met, and myself, but with this amazing network of partners around the world that are helping us amplify our work. And so what RSA USA Partnership can do 3 things in particular. Number one is as a fiscal partner. We're not registered in the US, and so that prevents us having conversations with funders like Carnegie, Ford, Media, and others who support democracy but can't fund us. It means that if we're jointly approaching funders, the credibility that the RSA brings and the ability to be a fiscal sponsor means that we will be able to reach the 30,000 young people we're aiming to reach in the next few years. Number 2, RSA as a partner brings, as you've said, Alexa, the network, the 31,000 members, but also the members here in the US that we can work with potentially to be co-facilitators of a Lunch for Democracy, or connect us with schools or with youth organizations, or be mentors for the young people that we work with. And then number 3, as a partnership, we can use Wonder Future plus RSA to grow the fellowship here in the US and globally, because together I think we can create a pathway that will take young adults from a Lunch for Democracy to becoming potentially part of the fellowship with the RSA. So they're bringing in new voices and new perspectives from some of the amazing people I'm meeting around the world who are already active in their communities and shaping the future. So, it's a really exciting prospect to have this partnership with you and Claire and others in the community. And I'm really excited about where this can take us going forward.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Leslie Ann. And it just reminds me too, the power of the RSA to really support folks that don't just want to create another institution, right? Maybe they're trying to create a social movement. Maybe they're trying to create a network of volunteers. Maybe they're just pre-institution build, and how we can help be a bridge during this time, and also provide some infrastructure support, provide some staffing support during that time. So really excited for that partnership. We're going to hop now into a more participatory discussion. A lot of the voices that you heard are going to be facilitating breakout groups. Claire momentarily is going to be setting up those breakout groups. We'll have about 20 to 25 minutes, depending on energy, for folks to share their ideas. What does the fellowship mean to you? Why are you here? How would you like to see the RSA better support fellows work? And what's an experiment that we could start to bring in the next 3 months, in the next 6 months, in the next year? And then in each of these groups, we'll have one person responsible for taking notes. And that person can also report back to the main plenary. So we'll be coming back together after these breakup groups. We'll be sharing the ideas that have surfaced, and we'll start developing a participatory roadmap around how we can socialize this strategy, what some of the challenges are that we see, and what some of the big areas of opportunity are, as well as the small tinkering things. I think someone referenced themselves as a tinkerer earlier, but what are the small little things that we can start phasing in as well? Great. So feel free to put any questions in the chat. Each of your facilitators has a draft facilitation plan, and you'll be going to breakout groups momentarily.
Yeah, I just wanted to quickly chat you through the breakouts. So we'll have 20-25 minutes, but there's also some kind of prompts there that you'll see on your screen. So we'll have some time at the start to have personal reflections. We'll have some prompts around what does supporting fellow-led work look like, experiments, and then sharing back. So I'm going to hang out in the main Zooms. If anyone has a question, I'll also send messages to folks reminding you about some of these prompts. And to our facilitators, thank you. And I have set the breakout rooms up. It's automatic, it's random. So take that as you will. And happy chatting. I hope you all have a great time. And if you joined later and I need to manually add you to a room, just please bear with me. Thank you so much. Hi, Jeremy. Sorry, I'll put you in a room now. And Jelena and Anna, just give me 2 seconds. Assign to. There we go.
I'm happy to stay in the main room. I don't want to go in a breakout, but I'd like to hear the summaries.
Oh, okay. Who's that? Who's chatting to me? Sorry.
Anna.
Anna. Hi, Anna. No worries at all. Yeah, you can hang out here.
Thank you.
All good. All good. Let me just get group 3. And DJ, and Jesse, I'll get you sorted out now. Sorry, thanks for bearing with me.
Thanks.
Okay. That's everybody. Ishmael, have I not assigned you yet? There we go. There we go. So Alexa, over to you to see what juicy conversation came out of our breakouts.
Fantastic. I might just wait for everyone to be properly transported back into the meeting. I always love this part. Welcome back, everyone. Excited to hear what came up in your discussions. I was lurking in a few of the groups, so hopefully my presence wasn't disruptive, but it was wonderful to hear the conversations that emerged and excited for everyone just to have visibility to some of the groups that you weren't able to join. So we'll just take a little bit of time now for either the note taker or facilitator, whoever wants to raise their hand from the group to share back what came up in discussion, maybe one major insight, any kind of key actions that you're keen to share with us or that you'd love us to think about more, potential experiments, and also any highlights. If there was anything that really moved or inspired you in terms of the folks that were in your group, that would be fantastic. So we'll start now with group 1. People might not know their group number. Do folks know their?
I think that I think that was us.
Yeah.
Okay.
I dropped into the chat. We didn't have a time to finish our dialogue, so I wanted to yield time for Ismail and also DJ just to chime in because I know our conversation got short. But we spent in our group, we spent a lot of time talking about the reflections. People were super excited about the pivot and investing in fellows. We talked about some of the barriers with respect to where we are now versus where we're trying to go. Potential questions around, can we do this? If everyone has a lot of great ideas, this is just going to be this big, beautiful mess of trying to manage it. But certainly a lot of dialogue, and people are super passionate about making change where they are in place, and really just elevating RSA to another level and making sure that when people get that magazine or brochure in the mail, that they actually feel the weight and gravity and beauty of being an RSA fellow. But with that said, I just want to give an opportunity for DJ and Ishmael just to add on, if you like.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I just really appreciated the event. And many of the comments, I echoed some of those feelings, particularly as I try to get in there, Zoe, Camper's comments, and Lee. And I've been a fellow, since 2003. I just love the idea of having the possibility of networking and maybe connecting with folks. And it's difficult to do. You're talking about this global organization. It's very, very difficult, but I'm still optimistic about that a possibility, which is why I'm happy to be a fellow, and I'm a life fellow. So I'll end it there.
Thank you. And Ismail or anyone else from Group One, would you like just offer just a quick reflection?
I would love to just shout out Ismail because you've been doing some amazing mobilizing of fellows in the responsible AI space and just been so impressed by the energy and the eloquence and what y'all have codified. So I don't know if there's a link you can share to Rain for some of these fellows here, but I know AI came up repeatedly when folks registered. How can we tackle this as a society and what are some of the dangers of that? I know, Tristan Harris was in San Francisco when I was there a few weeks ago and really is believing in this moment of human connection. And so it just feels like there's an incredible opportunity for fellows to mobilize around this. So I want to shout out your work too. All right, wonderful. Well, thank you so much, Kim. Sounds like your group was fantastic. We're going to be taking all the notes from the groups and synthesizing them. So if you feel like your perspective or point of view doesn't come through in this plenary, there will be notes following up, and then we'll also leave those Google Docs open. So, tomorrow, if you happen to have a really good idea, feel free to continue to add to the Google Docs and we'll mine those. If someone from the next group wants to share, I believe Chris Patton, that was your group. Yeah.
Yes, I was facilitating, taking notes as best I could, and we had some great conversations. So, firstly, what are our hopes for the fellowship? We're talking about amplifying messages, addressing the socioeconomic paradigm shift. Barbara mentioned that, and then also having honest conversations, and really, being honest with each other. And in terms of question two, what barriers? Well, it's looking at the friction from the status quo, challenging ourselves, and people have to put their hands up. Ultimately, it's about taking responsibility. And one of the things Clinton mentioned was that we've lost our societal honor system, which was a really interesting point of view. In terms of support that the RSA can give, a lot of that conversation was around doing more things face to face, having opportunities at the RSA House in London, or face to face events, East Coast, West Coast, wherever we have that critical mass of fellows that can come together, giving that opportunity. And then more practical support would be around project formulation and planning, because some of the ideas that fellows are coming up with are great, but then making them scalable is something that the RSA probably has some experience with that could be really useful. And then on experimentation, I think people want to get together in groups, figure interest groups together, pose some interesting ideas, some interesting questions, and let people grapple with it collectively. I think that would be something that many fellows would join in with. So yeah, I think those were kind of the major key points that came out, but great conversation and everyone really kind of involved in that conversation.
Wonderful. Thank you, Chris. Fantastic. Next, we're going to hear from Charlie.
And I'm going to hand it right over to the excellent people in my group. Several of them identified something they'd like to talk about as, the insights, structures, and experiments, but we had a super rich conversation. So I'm going to sit back. And maybe I'll hand it off to Billy first because she led the way and she could, strike the tone.
All I wanted to say was the insight for me was when you opened this up and you just turned around and said, I wrote this all down, it's highlighted on my pad, the strategic pivot. It's so timely, and amplifying fellows' voices is just like you've got all these amazing human beings doing amazing things, and we're all sort of sitting in silos in our homes or offices trying to do this. Yeah. So the pivot is, I mean, I could have switched off the minute you'd said that sentence, because I was like, yeah, they're in the, we're back. I feel like we're getting back on track to what they are. The way I explained it was, when I first joined the RSA, I joined it because of Dickens and Benjamin Franklin and the things that they were brave and courageous enough to have a coffee about and do, right? And it was becoming like, for a little while now, in all honesty, I just felt like, I think the RSA lost its path. I think the RSA's lost its path. And then when you said that, I thought we could only course correct when we stop and say, hang on, we need to do a pivot. So I'm really, really excited about what everything's going to come. And then the rest of the team just came up with all these brilliant ideas that we can pivot to. So thank you.
Thanks, Billy.
Charlie, is there someone else from your group that you want to call on?
Aaron wanted to speak, and Marilyn may well want to as well.
Great. So if someone wants to come off mute, Aaron, Mary Lynn.
Aaron, go for it.
Okay. So one example that we thought many of us share in common here in the US is the issue of democracy, just as an example. And underneath that umbrella of democracy, there are a whole bunch of sub-issues that many of us care about, whether it's, equity or all kind, you name it. And so what if there were ways to, since we've already signed on to Circle and we've said what we're interested in and we have LinkedIn, those things, there could be subgroups that form. So getting into the experimentation, we would all benefit by exploring topics of interest and then periodically convening to understand, where do these topics intersect, or where can they complement each other, or where do we have undiscovered assets in our community where we can help each other. And the experiment is, I'm a big fan of something called strategic doing. It kind of matches up what you'll see in our notes is stone soup or asset-based community development. What can we do? With chopped of like, okay, we've got this. What can we do with this? And breaking it down to, Dean was saying, very specific makes it easy to help. Like, does anyone know this person, to make an intro, right? Something that takes 10 minutes to 1 hour. So each group does maybe 3 hops of those 10 minutes to 1 hour in the topic that they think is interesting enough to dedicate that time. And then we all reconvene and share out those hops. What did we do in service of democracy? And then people may move groups, we may combine groups, we may kill off some, but I think feeling a sense of energy and movement, and also you have a chance to meet people and learn them, more deeply, and even think differently about the assets that each of us have to contribute, is kind of what we were kind of thinking about, how we could support that in the experimentation.
I love that idea, and because I had noted that I came into the fellowship a few years ago, but I really haven't figured out how to connect. I just haven't found a way to do it. And so I'm really excited about this pivot. It's definitely timely, and the world needs the RSA right now, like right now. And I love Aaron's idea. And also, it's the possibility of getting together and working together, but also learning together and then being able to share that in our broader communities. That just makes me really excited about this pivot. So thank you so much. And thank you to my group. I learned a lot.
Love those ideas. And I think we talk a lot about the power of connection. And one of the workshops we always get folks to reflect on social capital, which can be a bit of a wonky phrase, but really just that any time in your life that a connection really changed the trajectory of your life. And for so many people, there's a chance connection that just creates insane opportunity, that gives you a path in life that you never thought was possible. And that's what we'd love the RSA to do. I think we all can manufacture serendipity for each other through the connections that we have, through what you shared, Aaron, in terms of our own assets, even as staff members. There's so many things that we're sitting on, access to different worlds, interests, skills, and all of our fellows have that too. So how do we really visualize more of the resources that our fellowship has and make that accessible to others? I love that. Christabel, do you want to come in with your group?
Oh, I was with Chris.
Oh, you were with Chris. Okay. Great. So Jess, do you want to come in with your group?
Yeah, of course. So I was with Sarah and Melanie, and then Mitchell. And yeah, I'll just run through some of the highlights for us. In terms of hopes for the network, a lot of them, hopes for the fellowship rather, a lot of them were centered around the network of fellows that we have, and seeing this as a way to collaborate and to partner and to see it as warm networking and tinkering with each other on new ideas. And the diversity of the fellowship is what is central to that and what makes it different to other networks that people are part of. In terms of barriers, one of them, there's some obvious ones like, traveling and time zones and such like. But I think key one that stuck with me is that it is sometimes hard to navigate what the offerings of the RSA are, and who the other people in the fellowship are. And unless you are looking really specifically on Circle and searching for keywords, it's hard to be presented with other fellows, and find them. So I do think there's something that's come out of this that we need better communication around the Circle platform, to embed more short inductions on how to use the platform, not just in the standalone events that I run, but actually at the end of events like this, where we have people all in the same room ready to view, and be shown around Circle. Things that would support the fellows in our group, how to share the work that they're doing a little more. Again, it comes down to that amplifying, storytelling. Is there a structured way that we could go about that? Micro grants, spaces to incubate projects. That's come up too. On the experimentation, we honestly discussed actually quite a lot in the end. And I wonder if either of the people in my group, Sarah or Melanie, you'd like to highlight one or two of those experimentation pieces that came up.
Melanie has a baby on her, so she's on it. She's unmuting herself. No pressure also if you're busy, Melanie.
Yeah, all of a sudden I have very limited hands. So we talked about some experiments of like RSA, because you want to be infrastructure for change, blending some of the financial side of things with the social side. So we talked about small grants that invest in collaborations between fellows, whether that's to bring them together in a gathering or to bring them together over travel or just a little bit of seed to do an experiment together. We also talked about, I've been very into giving circles, and you mentioned other like high net worth RSA folks melding with RSA folks, melding with RSA as an organization. And so this idea of like, could we collaboratively give into a cause or into a project that is in some way mutually valuable? We also had some other experiments that are just around, I love some of the examples that Mitchell shared at the end of just like, book clubs work for a reason for deep conversation. Do we have an article club or some other animating way where it's a light touch way to get to know how different members think or care around a particular topic? Even if it was just like one book, one RSA USA for a quarter or a half, what might that do for the level of depth of connection? So anyway, just some ideas. Sarah, anything that you want to draw up?
Nope, you did a good job of summarizing.
Brilliant. Thank you guys. Love those ideas. Want to hand over next to Chris Foreman.
Okay, so Kate was taking notes and was going to speak, but she also said she had a builder. So I'm going to ask Kate first if she wants to summarize, and if not, I'll do it. It's up to her. She's still on the call. Give her a second.
Yeah, Kate is here, but currently muted. So
Okay, all right, I'll just jump in. So we had a cool conversation. There's about 5 of us in our group. Summer, Jessica, Aviva, Richard, Jess, and Kate. And so we just said, what are the hopes? Main hope, collaboration. One idea was to use other tools, deliberative software and support tools to support participation. Richard knows all about that, and I might ask him to say something about that in a second. So it's about finding people to work on tangible projects with. That's what we were looking at. And the barriers are, well, busy, it's the usual barriers, but very busy professional life, everyone balancing family and work, but fitting that in. So it's convincing people how to build convincing stories around what you're doing to help people want to bind on and help you. So that gave rise to a couple of cool ideas about mentorship. What if people could find mentors to help them develop ideas? And that gave rise to an idea of having we call it Fellows Tank, where you got like a lawyer and a storyteller and an expert in a field, and then you had to pitch and then sort of work an idea and sort of develop it. So it's about a way of focusing on a specific project to help people. An example with Jesse's idea, he has a house, a land, 22 acres, talking about hidden assets up there in the Pacific Northwest. And he was like, I need other people to use that land. And I'm totally throwing idea on behalf of you, Jesse, here. But what if people were to do retreats and things like that using that land? That's an idea I just had while we were talking. So there's things like that out there. And I will ask them to comment on that in a second. So that's the support, how to create small peer groups that are really focused on a project that making the RSA like a system of support, giving them processes that allow these concepts to emerge and then be supported like an incubator. Financial support is obvious. We need that. So some experiments, what about integrating some more technology with the Circles platform to help do deliberative things, in conjunction with meetings like this. One idea, can we find someone to run for president in the US? That was serious. But then we're thinking, well, hang on a minute. Yeah, could you create a non-partisan sort of coherence across the fellowship that would then actually target specific things that could help? That would be interesting. So yeah, that was the main thing. Imagining beyond the frameworks we already have, taking ideas and doing something radical with it that hasn't been done, getting critical feedback from elite mentor boards, open to fellows, more like a consultation, and then allowing notable insights to emerge from that and drawing other fellows into projects. And then there's a hidden asset, 22 acres in the Northwest. Jess or Richard or anyone from my group, do you want to jump in and say anything if I missed something? I've just volunteered your land, Jesse. You might want to comment on that.
Guess maybe I should then. The land that we live on is actually close to capacity, and it's not in an optimal area. I have a big family, and so the amount of money that I had to spend on it was not so great that I could have I could host big events. But we do have more than one. The goal is to have more than the one family that already lives on this land rent free, in addition to ours. Join. We have a family in mind, but what for my idea in particular, it was finding other people of similar means or greater means who would be willing to do similar things, who would say, well, I actually have more than I need. How could I use this to experiment with social arrangements and different kinds of decision-making frameworks, different kinds of economic distributional frameworks, that kind of thing, because the purpose is to find people. I think Christopher mentioned how billionaires or the very wealthy in our society get into politics essentially out of boredom. But imagine if they took that money and used it to empower people to live lives of fulfillment on an individual level. Like, here's a family, and then if that family is empowered not to have to worry about what we might call the daily grind, what might they do? And because we live in a world where billionaires don't tend to spend their money in this way, we have, I think, a vanishing window of time where people of upper middle class means can fill some of those gaps and actually provide similar resources on a smaller scale. And if more and more of us were to do that, we can imagine lots of different ways to organize ourselves, whether we're talking about online communities or democracy or almost any of these ideas except running for president, which would be pretty contrary to my overall take on these things. But so thanks for prompting that, Christopher.
It's a great idea just to inspire others. And there was just that maybe Richard could comment very briefly on.
Chris, we are
Oh, you
short
got to move
on.
on. Okay, that's
Yeah,
fine.
sorry.
Okay.
We're going to have ample time to synthesize all the ideas so there's visibility for
Okay.
everyone. I want to just give Leslie Ann a moment
Yeah.
to come in because there's one group we still haven't heard from.
Right.
Thanks, Alexa. And really, everything that I've listened to is a lot of the stuff came up in our group as well. So around the personal reflection, it was about connection. And I love your phrase, Alexa, insane connection. But we talked about more of it, both virtually and in person. And in terms of support for virtual, could be those one-to-one coffee chats that could be set up on a very regular basis. And also could the RSA partner with hospitality or other kinds of organizations that have spaces that might make them available for RSA members at a low or no cost. The other area of support was how could we know our community better? And this could be a heat map of where people are, as well as a skills map of what people do and where they have expertise. And then tools for creating effective and intentional meetings and potentially support in reaching out to those who can provide grants. And you'd mentioned that earlier. And then in terms of experiment, there were a few, but one was around could we revitalize chapters, RSA chapters around the country? And they could then, really help with amplifying those voices. And someone mentioned young people in particular, so that we're bringing different voices to the table. And so looking at chapters that would create those opportunities for more virtual and in-person connections. So I went through that rather quickly. So Alva, John, Jeremy, Robert, if you want to add anything that I missed, please jump in.
I'll take up on that. So what I have said at various points when I've given RSA feedback is that it should look for partnerships outside of itself, particularly when, for the US context where RSA is not based, but there's lots of similarly minded organizations doing similar things. We don't want this to just sort of be like a satellite of the UK. We want to be able to establish ourselves uniquely here. And doing that with organizations that are based here allows us to stand stronger on our own.
Brilliant. Thanks, Jeremy. Anyone else want to have a final word? I know we're just 1 minute over time, but if there's anyone who feels really called to share something, feel free to join.
Yeah, maybe I can quickly comment on what I was invited before that. I was just suggesting the Blue Sky social media ecosystem, which is based on an open protocol, gives a way to interconnect these various tools like Circle and some of these other things we've been talking about and put them together and have customized feeds, have lists of RSA members, so that could be sort of the interconnection glue between a lot of these things to sort of have a common communication framework that gives you a news feed tailored to RSA and build a community within that structure. And it's using mostly existing software, although integrating Circle with it might be challenging. I'm not sure how that would work, but it's something that might be worth looking into.
Thanks, Richard. I think that's a fantastic idea. So many wonderful ideas here. I know some folks have to jump now, and we'll just wrap up the session, but want to thank everyone for joining. What we're going to do next is basically download all of the ideas that were shared today into a participatory roadmap in terms of how we can phase in this strategic approach. It's something that we can continue to make open source. So as people have additional ideas, if you're talking to fellows who weren't on the call today, we'll have it live so that people can continue to update it with thinking. And then this is something we can share with our board. We'll share with RSA in London. And then we'll also invite folks at a later date to step into an advisory role or have a subcommittee of fellows who work to advance this work. So if that's something you might be interested in, stay tuned. We'll advertise that opportunity to be part of that subcommittee that can take this work forward. And I'm going to hand over to Claire, who's done such a wonderful job bringing this all together. Just big shout out. Thank you, Claire, for orchestrating. I know pulling off events with so many people, so challenging, but everyone just commented how masterfully you've pulled this off. So really appreciate that. And I'll let you take us out.
You. Oh, I'm loving all the emoji reactions. I'm here for it. So I've had a blast between amazing humans with wonderful conversation, cat cameos, baby cameos. It's been wonderful. So I appreciate you all showing up so energetically and sharing your time with us. 90 minutes is not something to be laughed at. I don't know. It's a lot of time in your day, is what I'm trying to say. We'll send a follow-up email with a copy of Alexa's slides. Those Google Docs are open to you all for a couple of days. Some people process at different speeds. They want time to reflect, sit with it, come back to it. So that's there for you. And we'll send a follow-up link with a recording along with any resources shared. And I'm going to save the chat, Erin, and I'm going to send it to you so I haven't forgotten. Thank you so much. Don't be a stranger, and send me an email with any questions that come up after we part ways today. But thank you so much and appreciate you all. Take care.